Good evening everybody, my name is Ali Baba from One Stop Tutorials. In this tutorial we're going to be talking about the brush tool and the power and the things it can do. Okay, the brush tool is here. It's all you can hit B on your keyboard and it will bring you to the brush tool. Now the brush tool is mainly integrated with a few things. It's integrated with the foreground and background color, okay, and it's also integrated with the swatches, which we'll go over more a bit later on. Now when you're on the brush tool you have these options available to the top of you. What you have here is you click on the arrow that's pointing down. This first one makes the size of your brush. So if we move it down to 9, you have a small brush. If we move it up to a higher number, you obviously get a bigger brush. Okay, and I'm gonna keep doing this a lot. I'm gonna be hitting Control Z quite a lot just to be keeping everything deleted. Now the second option here, as it says, is hardness. So this at the moment is a soft brush, and when you move it right to the top it turns into a hard brush. You can obviously mix in between, so you can have sort of like a hardy with a feather edge around it as well. Okay, so they're pretty easy. And down here are the brushes that I actually have on my computer. I think the standard ones are generally these ones. You'd have to have a look what you've got on there. I've got some funky ones on here as well. What you can also do with these brushes is, if you decide that you don't like these small thumbnails, you can go up to this little arrow up here, it points to the right, and you can change these presets. So you could have text only, so it shows you just text. You could also have larger thumbnails, so you get 3 in a row. You can have a small list, which just shows you the name. It shows you a little icon with the name of the brush, and then this is the larger version of that one. And you also have stroke thumbnail, which shows you what it will look like once you have used it. So this is my blood splatter, so I can use that. I use this for some weird funky stuff. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, I quite like to have it just on the small thumb. Sorry, the small thumbs. I can see them quite easy, and it's quite easy to use. Also in this option here, you can load brushes, you can save brushes, you can replace brushes, and you can reset brushes. Okay, so if you wanted to load a brush, more than likely you go to the place that you want to download it, and then you would need to go to your C drive, programs file, and wherever your Adobe Photoshop CS3 is, you would then need to go into presets, and then you would find your brushes. You would just drag it into there. A brush is an ABR file. You would drag it into there. You would then need to reopen Photoshop again, and you would probably see it down here. If you see here assorted brushes, that will be taken from assorted brushes here. So that's how you load a brush, and you can reset brushes. Okay, you can also say you have a favorite brush, or say later on I'll show you how to make your own brushes, but say you have a brush, you can set it as a preset and you can name it. I'll name this one Ali Baba, and when you hit OK, it'll be saved at the bottom here, and when you highlight over it, it will tell you the name to know. And if you want to delete it, you just right click and delete brush. Okay, so it's pretty simple stuff. So that's pretty much this menu. Yeah, so in fact let me change this brush. Let's get a brush that's going to be a bit easier. I just want a round soft edge 45s. Perfect. Right, next along, these are the modes. Now we'll have to go into this later on, but I just want you to know that these modes are here. You have the overlay, the soft light, the hard light, stuff like that. So it's good for you to know that they're there. Next one we have is the opacity. Basically it is what it says. You have this is a 100% opacity. Let's say this is about a 30% opacity, and then you've obviously got like let's make it a bit higher so you can see it. Let's make it like a 10. So basically it just fades it out. That's what an opacity does. Start with 100% and work your way down to the 0%. And we'll just bring it back to 100%. What you can also do, hover over opacity, and you get these two little arrows, and you can hold down your left mouse and just drag backwards and forwards and I quite like that. I quite like using stuff like that. Okay, the next one is the flow. Now these two buttons are connected. You have the flow bar here, and you have the airbrush. Okay, so if we make let's just make this 100% and we draw, you'll see it gets bigger, come down, it gets bigger. So it's like an airbrush. It just, when the longer you keep it down, the more it expands out. And if you were to change the flow, let's say to 23, it takes longer to come. It has that opacity look to it, and then hold it there, drag it along, hold it there, and that's what the flow does. Okay, so these two buttons are integrated together. Okay, so yep, here's the brush tool. Now let's say you didn't really want to keep clicking up here, change it, draw, come back up here, click again, draw. You have another option, and that is right click on your mouse and the same palette comes up. So you can change 35, right click, 65, and it follows your mouse cursor. So if you were to right click at the top here, it would come up here. If you right click over here, it would come over there. So that's quite handy to know. Right, some shortcuts you should know in the brush tool is the bracket keys. You have the open keys, open bracket, which is next to the P, which makes it smaller. You have the close bracket next to the P that makes it bigger. Okay, they're very handy to know. You also have, if you, let's say you wanted to make straight lines, you could hold down Shift on your keyboard, and that would make a straight line. You can't go up, you can't go down, you just go straight. Then you can let go. If you didn't hold Shift, you can just do anything you want, but let's say we're down here and we hold Shift, it would suddenly snap to it. So you could make a circle like this, come around, hold down Shift, and it would bring a straight line. So if you hold down Shift and go that way, okay, so you could click here, you could click here, click, 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 and that will just follow the path of where your mouse is. So that's another little handy trick. Now as we're on shortcuts, I quickly thought I'd show you how to shortcut between the foreground and the background. So let's choose a foreground color of red, and let's say we choose a background color of anything, just say green. Okay, to flip between them, you simply hold down X. So you click X and it changes the foreground and background color. So this is quite handy. So when you're doing something, you're painting something and you want to move the background color to the foreground color, you hit X, you hit X, you hit X, and you can change them quite easy. Also, another thing is if you want to get back just to black and white, then you just hit D, letter D on your keyboard, and that automatically turns them to black and white, and then you can do X again. Also, like I mentioned before, if you're on any other tool and you want to get back to the brush tool, you simply just hit B on the keyboard and it changes you back to the brush tool. So that's it for this tutorial. The brush tool is quite good. Just play around. There is another preset to it which we'll probably go over later on, and that's this one here, where you can come in and you can change certain settings to do certain things for the brushes. This probably will have to be its own tutorial because there's a lot involved in it. So that's it from me, Ali Baba from One Stop Tutorials. Please, if you've got any questions, leave them on YouTube and I shall try my best to answer them. Subscribe to my YouTube, and I shall catch you guys and girls later on. Cheers everyone.